EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen on Tuesday said the bloc has agreed to allocate €2 billion for drones technology to support Ukraine defenses. This allows Ukraine to scale up and to use its full capacity and, of course, it will also allow the European Union to benefit from this technology, the top EU official said during a press conference alongside NATO chief, Mark Rutte in Brussels. According to Associated Press, European defense ministers agreed on Friday to develop a drone wall along their borders with Russia and Ukraine to better detect, track and intercept drones violating Europe's airspace. We need to protect our skies. The drone wall initiative is timely and necessary, Rutte stressed. The decision came after a spate of incidents in which Europe's borders and airports were tested by rogue drones, in which Russia has been blamed for some of them but denies that anything was done on purpose or that it played a role. NATO jets scrambled on September 10 to shoot down a number of Russian drones that breached Polish airspace, in an expensive response to a relatively cheap threat. Airports in Denmark were temporarily closed this week after drones were flown nearby.
Good morning and welcome. We have the pleasure of welcoming NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte and President von der Leyen first.
If we continue to believe that Ukraine is our first line of defense, we have to step up the military assistance to Ukraine. Therefore, concretely, we have agreed with Ukraine that a total of €2 billion will be spent on drones now. This allows Ukraine to scale up and to use its full capacity, and of course it will also allow the European Union to benefit from this technology. However, we need a more structural solution for military support, and this is why I have put forward the idea of a reparations loan that is based on the immobilized Russian assets. The loan would not be dispersed in one go, but in tranches and with conditions attached. And we will strengthen our own defense industry by ensuring that part of the loan is used for procurement in Europe and with Europe.
Through SAVE and other initiatives to bring Ukraine to the best possible place. We have to keep our skies safe. And we have seen over the last couple of weeks what happened with the drones in Poland, the MiG-31s in Estonia, but also what is happening now in Denmark. In Denmark, we are still assessing what is behind it, but when it comes to Poland and Estonia, it's clear that it is the Russians. Still, we are assessing whether it is intentional or not, but even if it is not intentional, it is reckless and it is unacceptable. So we need to protect our skies. So the drone wall initiative is timely and necessary. Because in the end, we cannot spend millions of euros or dollars on missiles to take out the drones, which are only costing a couple of $1,000s. So we need the drone wall.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wish you a nice day.
Thank you.
Well-known Z patriot Maxim Kalashnikov acknowledged that the war against Ukraine is becoming destructive for Russia, primarily in economic terms. He made this important statement on his blog. The war is aimed at the complete destruction and crushing of the Russian Federation. First and foremost, of course, is the economic aspect. Since the decline in oil revenues against the backdrop of low oil prices is a blow like a steel beam below the belt. The war is seriously aimed at our defeat, and it doesn't necessarily require the Ukrainian armed forces to create a large cauldron for us or reach Moscow. Defeat can be achieved by inflicting economic collapse in one's rear. This has happened before in world history, he stated. According to him, Ukrainian drone and missile strikes on Russian oil refineries and gas pumping stations indicate that Kiev is waging a large-scale and targeted campaign. Approximately 17% of oil refining capacity has been disabled, and the fuel crisis is growing. Voices are growing louder that we'll have to switch to rationing fuel consumption using coupons. Kalashnikov noted. Military observer and IDF officer Yigal Levin agreed with his assessment. He said Ukraine's attacks on pipelines and refineries represent a deliberate strategy. This is a systematic campaign with the specific goal of destroying Russia economically, Levin emphasized. He recalled that history has examples of defeats without the fall of the capital. It's hard to disagree with Kalashnikov. To lose, you don't necessarily have to have your capital captured. Germany suffered a crushing defeat in World War II, even though there were virtually no enemy troops on its territory, the experts said. Media previously reported that Z channels are unhappy with the Kremlin's plans to raise VAT. Increasing the value-added tax rate to 22%, coupled with a high key rate, is a death sentence for the Russian economy. The Telegram channel Smoker's Empire directly predicted the dire consequences for Russia. I'll explain it simply. If the ruble remains pegged at 80% and the rate at 16 to 17%, but VAT rises from 20 to 22%, the economy will begin to smell like a graveyard for objective reasons, because the conditions will be incompatible with life. The channel also warns that due to a combination of factors, declining oil and gas revenues, unscheduled plant shutdowns, and localized accidents, most companies will run out of reserves by the end of the year. A municipal official also unexpectedly voiced harsh criticism. Tomsk Duma deputy Speaker Andrei Petrov predicted that the Kremlin's VAT fraud would destroy small businesses, calling the initiative cannibalistic. They want to increase the VAT rate to 22%. This is a tax included in the price of most goods, which is paid by literally all citizens, including even the poorest, the regime spokesman wrote.